Hey, can you talk?
That's how we roll. I just said a bad word, and then we went online.
Oops.
I'm Dave.
I'm Sean.
This is Barstools and Bandtalk.
The complete maritime music bucket list. I can't see you, Dave. I can hear you. I can't see you.
I don't know why that is. I can see me. I can see you.
Great.
Do your little screen thing. Swipe it.
There it is.
Yeah. Wow. I'm excited about tonight because you know what? This is an old friend of Sean's and I seem to run into him every 20 years. It seems how it works. But last time I saw him, he was in town working with Cirque du Soleil. He works all the time. And it's part of our series of kind of recognizing the folks behind the scenes to make the magic happen. It's the sound techs, it's the light techs, it's the stage crew, it's the folks that really make the show happen. And this guy was involved in a lot of shows. I can't wait to hear all the folks he's been involved with because it's going to blow your mind. Sean, you talked to him probably more. Well, I guess I saw him last year. You saw him when?
Well, it's been a long time. But the thing that you talk to him, the amount of talent. Forget about musical talent, the amount of technical talent that's in our region that, this guy has traveled the world doing technical production for everything from Cirque du Soleil to, Haywire to he's toured with the Rolling Stones, and he's from St. John, New Brunswick. So the moral of the story is it ain't where you come from, it's where you want to go and where you end up. Right. So without further ado, we're going to welcome one of the wonderful Dykeman brothers, Mr. John Dykeman.
And there he is, John Dykeman.
How's it going, boys?
Look at you. You got St. John written all the fuck over your face, man.
Yeah, it's the fog.
John, I don't know if you can hear the intro, but we were basically saying that cut away the musical talent for a second. The amount of technical talent that's in our region, there's yourself, there's your brother, there's Roy Monberket, there's Peter Hendrickson, there's Kevin Ferris. Talk about that because you guys have traveled the world doing what you do, and we're not from a huge place.
No, it is kind of surprising, but at the same time, no, because there's something about the work ethic of Maritimers, East Coast work ethic. We got it from our parents, and I think we all were, interested in music and technical stuff and audio stuff, and we just took. So rather than like doing it in an office, we took our professionalism and went into something we loved, which was touring with music. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun, But yeah, there's some amazing people, Steve Hennessy, another huge name out of the Maritimes, guitar player, keyboard player, but then off with Bublé and Bryan Adams and Prince, like those huge names. It's always nice to see how well they're doing and seeing their posts and where they've been and where they're heading, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
So, but the flip side of it is, and we know it as people that play music, and, it's a rough go because you spend long times away from your home. So long times away from family if you're married and kids and whatnot. So I guess it's our version of the Navy in a sense, right?
Yeah, no, true. Very true. Sometimes I think the longest I was ever away from home was almost a full year.
Wow.
And that was with Broken Toys because I'd been in Halifax for a while and then got the job with those guys. And then we made our way right across Canada, right to Vancouver, and spent the last couple months of that band's life out on the West Coast. And then after that, it was back home when it was finished, and then picked up, went with Drama. between Broken Toys and Haywire was a gig with Drama for a while. So
what year was that now, John? Because I'm trying to think if you were with Drama when we started with them.
85. No, 80. No, I'm sorry, 86. It would have been the spring of 86.
Okay, we started with him the following year. I guess it was '87. That was
Okay.
that was Sean's and I. We cut our teeth open up for drama. We started with the Palace and then on a university tour, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was great times for sure.
Yeah.
Well, Blair was with them. It was Blair and Bill Boulier
Right.
and Junior.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm trying to think of, it was me and Bill, and I think it was Perry Manzik
Oh,
and
Perry.
and
Wow.
and Junior.
Junior, yes.
Junior on deck. Yeah. That
Where's
was,
Junior now?
I haven't laid eyes on Junior, or I know I saw a poster though that somebody had been talking to him.
Didn't you put the picture up of Junior?
No.
No,
ran
that was Blair.
Oh,
I ran into Junior about 5 months ago at the Split Crow.
oh,
And, I suck at math, but my other superpowers, I never forget a face. He was sitting right at the bar and he was watching us play, and I recognized him. He didn't recognize me, and I went up to him and said, Junior, Sean McKenna gave me a big hug, and I don't remember him being like that, but he's like, so good to see you.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's doing, but he seems to be doing well. He hung out for a bit, and then it was like, good to see him. We'll talk to you later. So he's still alive. He's kicking. He's doing something.
That's good. I don't know what he did. Like, after I kind of joined Haywire, it kind of sort of didn't end my business as, but there's a few gigs here and there, but I don't think I ever really ran into him again after the drama days. Like, so I don't know how long he stayed in the business or, how far he went with it or anything, to be honest. I mean, I just say, I don't know whatever happened to him, but I know I've heard he's well, and you're telling me. So if you see him, tell him hello for sure.
will do. John, let's go back, brother. I want to hear from the beginning. So, like, you and your brother, you're both involved in the same industry, right? It's kind of
yeah.
So, like, how did this happen? Like, did you grow up with lights and sound equipment all over your house, and how did it happen?
It's funny enough. Blair and I have an older brother, Brian, and he in '82 he was doing some stuff at clubs and things, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come down to the Lord Beaverbrook Rink, work a concert with me? You make some money that you might get a T-shirt." And I wasn't doing well in school at this point, right? So I said, and I played a little bit of bass with some basement friends, and actually with Blair, he played guitar, I played bass, and another friend of ours played drums, and so I said, "What the hell, right?" So the first time I ever touched any gear was Burton Cummings in '82,
Wow.
and I was 16 years old, and I don't know what it is about that whole day, but it blew me away. I was just like, I was amazed at the truck, the gear. I mean, the first thing we took off the truck was a baby grand piano in a flight case. And it was kind of the whole thing blew me away. And I kept doing it. I started, because my older brother had worked a few clubs. So he, they knew me by name.
Yeah.
So I was working the locker room, upstairs, down. I've got cheat sheets here. Sorry. The Lighthouse Pub, which was in Market Square, like shows like Street Hard and oh gosh, before Frozen Ghost, what were they called? Sheriff, thank you. And just kept doing it, and and a lot of the Halifax bands that come over and do the Lighthouse as well. So there's a couple guys that would come in every month or so. It was Bill and Perry. And got to know them and got along with them, and they liked my work. And one day Bill says, "Look," he said, "buddy," he said, "if you ever move to Halifax," he said, you move to Halifax, we'll get you the work." And at this point, I was already 3 years behind in school, and I thought, you know what, I think this is the thing to do, So anyway, I quit school. I think I might have quit before I did that, but. And my father's brother, my uncle, he lived over in Halifax, so my dad arranged for me to stay with my uncle over in Clayton Park.
Okay.
And so then, my first gig was Sam. So anyway, I'm sorry, I'm skipping this. So anyway, I went over to join Sam Moon. So it was 17 years old, touring with Sam, Richie, Neil McKinnon, Willie Dobson, and Doug McKay, and Bill and Perry, of course, and myself.
Man.
And it was like a month, 2 months into it, they said, "Oh, we're going on a Western tour," and I was just like, "What?" Like, so we did a Western tour, and went out to Alberta and came back, and what an education that was.
Who the fuck needs school, brother? Who needs it?
Highly overrated.
Right.
So yeah, so I just kept, that's where the sort of like the genesis of it was, and then of course with anything in life, you get to know people and you meet people and it's connections, and so the key, and I should mention too, there's a real important thing that happened in Halifax. When work was kind of dried up and I was just kind of fed up, and I was going to move back to St. John, and Brad Fox, because I was doing stuff with Fast Forward as well, and Brad said, "Look, I know your uncle's driving you crazy, and you want to head back to St. John. He said, well, why don't you stick it out for a little bit longer? We got a couch you can sleep on." So at the time, it was Brad, Alan King, Brad's now wife Heather, and Roy Mombercat and myself living on, I think it was Charles Street or Kennard Street, somewhere in that area.
Sounds like trouble to me.
No, it was one. They took care of me. They really looked out for me and they took care of me, and I was still able to get loader gigs and spotlight gigs around. And then I met up with her name was at the time Kathy Shane. Remember her, local singer, and we did some stuff. Release was the name of her band.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I saw her one night at the Moon, or the Palace, I guess, and we were chatting, and she said, I told her I was, looking for work, looking for another gig. She said, my boyfriend's band actually might be looking for a guy. Let me talk to him. Anyway, so she set up a meeting, and I go and I meet with Sean Kilbride. Yeah, and so we have a beer, get to know each other, go over to the rehearsal hall a couple days later, and everything seemed great. And that was the Broken Toys gig. And the Broken Toys, they break up. Sean goes to Haywire. Ed Polesny, the Haywire stage guy, he was leaving the road. Sean was like, "I know a guy." Sean calls me, and then that's how it all led to that. It's just from a chance meeting, with somebody I knew in the bar. I was like, "Hey," and sequence of events.
I don't know, John. You know what, Johnny? I don't know if I believe that or not, because you said it when we first, introduced you. Hey, it's John Dykeman. We talk about work ethic, and his character, and we had a big interview with Darby Mills, and Darby Mills talking about, she'd rather be in a bad deal with good people than a good deal with bad people. She doesn't want to be around dicks. So there's a reason why you kept getting phone calls, because you're not a dick.
I'll take that.
Well, we've all met a lot of dicks, and the one thing I always remember every time that somebody mentions John and Blair Dykeman, I always laugh. Remember, like Blair, honest to God, Dave and I were fresh out of high school. Blair was one of the first crew guys, tech guys that we ever get to work with, and he was just fantastic.
Yeah.
With Bill Bootlier and Junior and all those guys. And then when I met you, and you were kind of doing bigger things when I first met you. But there's something that you're saying that's kind of neat, because you're, and by no means am I saying you're 10th on the list, but you're about the 10th person that's come in, he'd be a tech guy, guitar player, whatever, that said, "I almost quit. I almost had enough.
Yeah.
I gave it one more shot."
Yeah.
And it kept going. Yeah.
It's there must have been a reason why, and there was obviously something was telling me to, when Brad said, "Hey, we've got a couch here, stick it out a bit longer." Of course, I didn't want to go back to St. John, especially after having a taste of touring and band life, and it was exciting. I was a kid, 17.
Yeah.
I've got a 17-year-old daughter, and I'm like, I was that old when I went on the road. Like, it kind of blows me away at times, But it was really alluring. It was appealing, So why would I want to go back to St. John?
Sure.
No offense.
Yeah, but back there now. But you worked with Haywire. How long were you with Haywire?
6 years.
Okay.
6 years.
Yeah.
I didn't know
8.
that.
Why didn't you know that? Or you did?
Wow, I said I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah. It was like June of '86. I started out. It was a couple days before my birthday, and switched over from. I came back, had a couple days off between drama and Haywire, and on the road, it's just like, hey, nice to meet you. The only person I had met was Sean.
Right.
I'd never met anybody in the band before.
Who was the new guy anyhow? Sean was the new guy anyhow, really, at that point.
He still is the new guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was, it was nice to have at least somebody I knew in the band, and got to know everybody else. Anyway, and then my God, it was a month, maybe not even a month, and we landed the Kim Mitchell tour, the Patio Lanterns tour. So again, at this point, I'm only 19 at the time. And it's like, what the, like, going out with one of my, like, loved Kim Mitchell and Max Webster.
Yeah.
And it's like, we're going across Canada, literally coast to coast with them. And I was like, holy shit. The first thing we did when we got to Toronto was we did the video shoot for Standing in Line.
Right.
And so again, Little Maritime band, and it's like, oh, you're going out with us in support of a huge act. Oh, now we're shooting a video. I was like, so yeah, that went, yeah, it was early '92, I think, is when I finished with them, and yeah, good. It was so much fun. Like, they're still like family. We all still, anytime we get a chance, we get, I'll go to see them or talk with them, or just see them online. But there's always been that connection, right? It's like a family. So it's a love.
Well,
them.
it's
Good.
fun. I mean, he grew up a couple streets actually from where I'm sitting right now over.
Oh, no, yeah.
And for him, like for me, like when I was in high school, he used to come watch our band rehearse at my mother's house, and he was just like, I used to just barrage him with questions. But how did you record? How did you do this? He called me one time. Goes, I'm going to be hosting the show Switchback on CBC.
Yeah.
Drum kits in Toronto. Can I borrow your drums? So I remember him doing it. We went over and we watched. And two things I remember. One, it was cool to see my drums on TV. But I gave him a kick drum with my name on it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But it was just so cool to see those guys, because really they were a huge band in Canada, and for them to be from here and see them in a mall or was very cool. Yeah,
no, for sure. And it was then the first, it was really interesting for me because, like one of the first, I was looking in the archives, one of the first shows we did was, I just saw the name of it. It was a little town just before the Cabot Trail. French name of a town, I think. I can't remember.
Louisdale or Aarschot?
No, not Aarschot, no.
Shetty Camp,
thank you.
The Gabriel.
Played the arena there.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like that just before we went out with Kim Mitchell. And it was my first arena gig with them. So we had that big Martin system that Joan Kirby was talking about, that big double Martin Midas system. And, they're just their own. We didn't have Tour Tech at that point. It was just they owned their own light show.
Right.
But it was insane. There was like over 1,000 people in this little crappy little rink screaming their heads off. And it was like, holy shit. It's like, this isn't like going out with Drama or Sam or something. These people are here to see this band who have a video on Much Music.
Yeah. And
it was like I can still hear it. It was kind of frightening in a sense, because it was, that's something you'd hear if you're going to a concert.
Right.
As an audience member, not being part of the production that is playing to that screaming crowd. So yeah, that was quite a shocker. Pleasant shocker, but yeah.
So your forte on the road back then, were you more of a lighting tech or a sound tech, or what were you doing at the time?
Oh, strictly backline. Guitar, like string changes, setting up the drum kit, keyboards, risers, whatever, and just whatever the guys need on stage. So that would be my job during the day. Once we get in, lights would go up, and then we'd put we'd put risers in if need be. And then I'd set up Sean's kit, Dave's keys, bass rig, guitar rig, and make sure, everything's restrung, tuned, cleaned, any repairs that need to be done, take care of any, and things really didn't break down that often. They had good gear. So, and that was in the early days, I was still doing Spotlight too. So it's like, like you'd do everything that had to be done. And it's like run out to the spot before they went on, do the set, go change guitars or clean up or tune up, and then get ready for the second set.
So if Marvin's breaking a string on stage, are you the guy at stage left who's got another guitar ready for him? Is it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And we had, like a case all set up that, Marvin really had a great system, the way he had his guitars strung. He had the Floyd Rose, but he would feed the string in at the neck. The ball was on the head. Yeah, it was wicked. So you string it through, measure it, put a little bend in the cord, in the string, snip it into the saddle, lock it down. And when you started to tighten it up, it would barely make a revolution around the tuning peg.
Wow.
So it'd be minimal stretching. I mean, it was so quick to change a string, and a couple of bends, couple of the pulls, tighten it up, tune it up, and then it's like, okay, that's good. Couple of whammies, and then he's set to go. He's keeping an eye on me. I'm keeping an eye on him, and then when he knows he can come over and switch it out. But that was rare. He wasn't really a shredder. He was such a great player. He didn't really...
Very tasteful player, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't chop strings much. And the same with Ronnie. Ronnie Schweitzer. He had of course, Steinbergers.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, anybody can change a bass string on a Steinberger. It takes it's so quick. But he had his backup right behind him, beside his rig. So, if he let a string go or broke one, he just off it went, and he just pick up the next, the one beside it and go. And they had with their wireless systems, they kept their packs taped to a belt, and that's their stage belt. So when they had to change something, all they had to do was pull out the 1/4 inch, trade the guitar, plug it back in, and away they went. There was no messing around. It was
But who would know that? Because there'll still be a live feed, right? There'll still be a live feed from your.
Oh, sure. There's definitely going to be some crackles and pops, but all they're worried about is getting, especially with Ronnie, because he only had the 5 strings. So he had that tuned to, I think it was like a low B or something on the 5 string. So he needed that back, his main guitar as soon as he would get it back,
Did Sean have a drum tech, or did you handle the drums too?
I was Sean's drum tech from Broken Toys right till the end of my days with Haywire. I was his guy. So
you were tuning everything for him.
I would do my best. I wasn't great at tuning, but he always liked what I did with the snare, which which is kind of important. But I kept it clean, and it was set up the same way most days. And then but the other part of Sean's kit too was that he was using triggers for a long time, for a couple of years anyway. And we had a snake that went stage right where my station was. So not only was I taking care of all the tunings and any changes that need to be done, but I was also programming all the Simmons pads for all the different sounds. So I have a cheat sheet somewhere, and it's just insane. It's like load this to pad A, load this sound to pad B, and then take this out, and and then I was doing metronome as well.
Wow.
To start the songs, which was a little trick we learned from Kim Mitchell's drum tech, Paul DeLong's drum tech. The first couple shows, we noticed he was holding his arm up every night. We finally realized he's got a metronome with an LED on it. So just to start the songs, right? And
yeah.
Paul DeLong would look over, see the red light going, get his beat, and then start. So of course we thought that's pretty cool. So we did that as well. And so it was like loading the Simmons pads, metronome, guitar changes. It was a busy
Wow.
a busy wing.
It's interesting that you bring that up though, about, because I know like a lot of bands that I opened for, and like the Moon and stuff that came in that were touring bands, they all played to a click track, and they all seemed to either have backing vocals on tracks, or it was just like, and I remember talking to a couple of the road managers, and it was basically the record companies wanted them to sound as close to the record as possible when they were out there hawking the wares. So did you guys go that far into it? Was it like, was there a click track live, or was it just
never. No, never a click track live. No, what you saw is what you got. I mean, I've got to give it to them. I mean, that they, Haywire live were as close to what you heard on the albums. I mean, it was, it was a great, such a musically great band to work with.
Yeah.
It's nice to go with something that you enjoy, that you're not just sort of going, oh yeah, I'm making a buck. It's like you actually enjoy the music, and that's a big part of it,
Sure it is.
Sure.
So yeah, but no click tracks, just a metronome to get songs started, and that we only did that. It wasn't forever. I think it was maybe a year, maybe one or two tours, and then we didn't do any more after that. I know there was a couple of songs that I think later on in the mid, I guess it was like Get Off the album, or that there was some tracks like a drum track, but it was in the song. So there was just like a backing track with just rhythm, and then Sean would play along with it. So but it wasn't like it wasn't for to keep time. It was just to make it sound, as close to the album as it could, because they were like, it was a sampled beat, Get Back to You was the song. Yeah. But that was it.
When they were recording, would you go in and tech that too, or would you go off and find another gig and go back out with them when they were ready?
Yeah, I'd go out and find other gigs. Yeah. I mean, I visited them once up at Metalworks, and that was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Just to be in that legendary studio, and then we went in there one time. Actually, I guess I sort of did some tech stuff. Yeah, we set up Marvin's rig. We went in for a couple days in the mid 80s or late 80s and did some tracking stuff for, I don't know what they're doing, to be honest, but I remember that it was stuff that never made it onto an album, but I think they were doing some demos or something there.
Right on.
So we had a couple days hanging out in the studio, so it was pretty sweet. It was like, sitting and playing pool and enjoying the beverages, and of course it was.
It's funny, Johnny, because you get that, because Sean and I talk about this a lot, and it's kind of, if we have one, I guess, claim to fame, the reason why we can talk to just about anybody involved with maritime music is Sean and I did it. You did it. We all did it. So those road stories and the camaraderie and the friendship, we spent more time with our bandmates than we ever did with our family or our spouses or our girlfriends or our kids as time went on. So it's kind of hard to leave that. I'm so glad that you're still friends with the guys in Haywire, because 6 years is a long time, man. That's a long time.
Yeah. Mind you, it wasn't 6 years solid, right? I mean,
no.
but it's we got along great, and it was, when you're all crammed into a bus, and you literally, it's like there's, I don't know if you've seen the confines of a tour bus before.
Yeah.
So you've got 3 bunks on one side, 3 on this side, and then 3 more and 3 more. So you're stacked up like pancakes, but you've got the back lounge and the front lounge, and so you can, at least there's some room to move, but pretty close quarters, especially when you're literally going across Canada, and that's your home, unless you like you get to a gig where there's a hotel, or the bus driver needs 12 hours of sleep or something, you'll get a shower room or something. So but so it is important that everybody does get along, so, and for the most part everybody did.
Well, that's the glamour stuff that nobody hears about too, eh? Like 8 guys stacked in it's like a submarine. You know what I mean? Like,
Eight,
Yeah,
yeah,
it would be. It would be really.
yeah. That we, I mean, at the one time, I think we had about 12 out. I think we had a bus that was full for sure, but I mean, even with some of the tours we did out west with like a 10-ton truck and a tour bus, I mean, we had, you know, like it fought like five. There's 5 crew and 5 band, you know, and it was tight at times, but you know, everybody got along. It was good. And then with the bigger tours, when we come out and did, you know, the 87, 88, did the, you know, the first Maritime Arena tour. I mean, we had, you know, our own semi, another bus, and, you know, there was like 2 or 3 lighting guys and 2 or 3 sound guys and myself and another, you know, another stage guy. We hired a second. Actually, we had Brad Barker was a second, from, you know, I don't remember who he played with. You know that? I know he played with Pursuit of Happiness. I know that, but
house.
oh, it was Steps. Okay, I wasn't
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And so he was a guitar tech on one of those tours, and Ronnie Dusek came out on a tour as well and was a second guy on deck. Because when you're on a 40-foot stage, it's kind of hard to police, you know, 4 musicians. I mean, Paul is pretty much on autopilot unless his mic dies, but that was rare.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so those, and it was, and gosh, we had Brian Farr out, we had Brian Norman, Roy Mombercat, Jamie Duffton, so many great names from the East Coast.
Drop some
I know-
names, brothers. It's a safe place to drop names here at Barstools and Bandtalk. We drop names
Yeah.
all the time.
Good. I'm all over the name drops.
So you no, you didn't just do Haywire. So I mean, you did a bunch of other stuff too, in between and after and before. And talk a little bit about that, because it's not all music, different sorts of things, right?
Yeah. One of the, I mean, I did, remember the Rick Spider band?
Yep, absolutely.
So I did like an 8 or 9 month stint with Rick Spider between Haywire tours. So that was a lot of fun, just up and down Ontario and a couple spots in Maine and the Maritimes, and going to Chi-Chi. You know, I got to talk about 84 real quickly too. After Sam Moon, there was a small, the Richie Oakley band. it was Willie Dog and Richie, and that was a blast. I think we only did like 3 or 4 gigs. Like, yeah, trying to think about where that was. And then another band called Follow That Car. Did some work with them. A little bit of work with Secret Treaties between tours. And we always had Festival by the Sea in St. John. So a lot of us cut our teeth on that from like 89 until about 95, I guess.
Wow.
So that was a lot of great people, great techs worked that as well. And of course, we had Tour Tech every year come down and do sound and lighting, and they were always more willing to show new guys how things go together, and just good guys all around, you know.
Did you ever work at Tour Tech with Peter or no?
No, I didn't. I got hired a couple times as a second to Blair, you know, rather than send somebody down, they would hire me for the day, like at Harbor Station. So Blair would be he'd be the head LX, and I'd just do whatever he told me to do,
Right on.
which is fine. It's like, that's the business. It doesn't, it's not,
Was Blair older than you or younger?
He's younger, but not by much. He's
Good
like,
Catholic family.
he's like, I think it's about 14 months difference. Yeah, we're really close in age. But yeah, and I did a couple other smaller gigs, but never full time or anything. Not like far from it. But I remember when Peter Hendrickson had said to me, he said, "What?" Because he knew that Blair did lights. Because he did a little bit of the Maritime circuit, and he asked, he said, "What's your brother doing? Is he doing anything?" I said, "No. You know, here's his number." And it was only like about 2 or 3 days later, and I was driving him down to Dartmouth from St. John. Like it was, and then I don't know how long that stretch was. I don't remember I don't even remember what year that was, to be honest, that I took him down there, but I think it would have been 94 or 95, I think.
Okay.
And then he was with them forever after that. What's the other thing I did? Oh, I did a neat, here, name drop time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Worked between Nut House and Don't Just Stand There. I worked at a place called Deerhurst Resort up in Ontario. And one of the singers in the show, her name was Eileen. And then 4 years after I left that show, I saw her on TV, and she was known now as Shania.
Yeah.
So we worked. You never know who you're going to work with.
She was a dancer?
No, she was a singer. She
Oh.
did, but of course, dancing came with it
Yeah.
because it was a Broadway review. So
Okay.
so there was a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but mostly for her was singing. But I'll tell you the weirdest thing about that story is that I come up, I go up to Ontario, take the train up to Ontario, and take a bus up to Huntsville, and walk into the show. They're still in rehearsals. It's a beautiful set, beautiful lighting. Which, by the way, Katie Brooker, that's where we first worked together. She was on lights at the time. She was like a programming director, lighting director. Sorry. So this girl comes up and she goes, "Hey, John, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Hey, Vicky, how are you?" And it was a girl that somebody in Haywire knew and had met her on one of the tours. And she goes, I was like, but I remembered her. I said, "Hey, Vicky, how you doing?" And she said, "Actually, no, my name's Shania now. I've changed my name." It's like, okay, that's cool. Anyway, so that was where Shania Twain got the Shania name, was from Vicky, who worked the show as well. She was the wardrobe girl. Weird.
Crazy.
I remember back in the day, we used to do load-ins in the Metro Center, and she was opening for George Strait.
Wow.
And I remember at the end of the show, she came out, she went down to the corner of the Metro Center. They set up a table and she signed autographs. And I bet you if there was 15 people that went there to get her autograph.
Insane.
And I'm pretty a load of people that are kicking themselves now that they didn't, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And the funny thing, I mean, she was a talented girl. Like she was nice, and we hung out, and I mean, she was just one of the singers, and it was a tight group of people. We were all get along a lot, and barbecues, movie nights, that kind of thing. But there was another girl in the show, and her name's Joni Wilson. And it's funny because she was the one I said, here's my card. And she was amazing. I said, if anything ever happens, if you ever go on tour, I said, call me. I said, well, I'd love to work with you. But she never went anywhere, did anything, and was the person who I thought maybe at the time had maybe a little less talent turned into this friggin' superstar.
Vicky, call me. Or Shania, whatever your name is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny the way it works, though. I mean,
oh man,
we say this all the time. Like in my mind, Dave Roberts is a guy who should have been a world-renowned superstar, and I see him now, and you see Dave, and he just something about him. I mean, it's just like he's got the personality, he's got the voice, and it's a miserable old business sometimes, right? When that person makes it and this one doesn't, but.
You saw a lot of that, John. You would have saw that with Gary Gillespie. You would have saw it with Peter Ettinger. You would have saw it with Jackie Smith. You would have saw there's so much talent here, and frontmen with like such veracity. And it's just shit happens.
Exactly. It is a heartbreaker, And the other thing, I mean, when you remember back in the 80s and stuff, the production
Michael Dimitri,
value.
same thing.
What's that?
Michael Dimitri, same thing.
Yeah. He wasn't. Yeah. Like when you went to see a band at the Moon or the Palace, you weren't just going to see a band. I mean, you're going to see a show.
Mm.
I mean, you know what I mean? All the bands. I mean, the wardrobe.
Yep.
Huge audio, big lights.
Yep.
Pyro sometimes, fog machines, and it wasn't just let's sit back and watch the band. I mean, you remember how packed those dance floors would get?
Yeah.
I mean, and it was a stellar show. I mean, I've shown pictures to friends who never got a chance to see Razor Boy, He said, "Oh my God, who is that?" And I said, "That's Razor Boy. They're a local Halifax band. Looks like a big concert." He's like, "Yeah, that's Randy Urquhart."
Yeah.
You know, and just these monster shows, and it was like I was always unbelievable to see one of Randy's shows,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to see too many of them. I mean, and even with Blair, I didn't get a chance to see too many of his shows either, just because we were,
Nice word. Yeah.
two ships in the night. I mean, I
Yeah.
saw a few notes where I said, I think he was down at the Moon and I was at the Palace, two different shows. And I wrote down on my book as ran down and see Blair between sets. Just to go down and see your
Dear
long
Mom,
lost.
I saw my brother today. Love, John.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Exactly it.
You know,
So yeah, we always get along. So it was nice to be, when we actually did tour together. It was great.
John, it's so funny you mentioned that, because I mean, there's so many people, and again, we're just having fun with this show. Like, we really are.
Yeah.
We're just trying to celebrate maritime music, and we recognize the entire picture. And Sean and I think in, again, 86, 87, we watched these shows being put up, and it was larger than life. I mean, our high school bands, we would go out and steal freaking Christmas lights, the floodlights off people's lawns,
Yeah.
and put it in our basements. Like, yeah, now we're rock stars. But then when we saw these big par cans and hundreds of them, and the sound system, like it was in the fog and the whole pyro, it was larger than life, and it was so professionally done, so that you couldn't not celebrate that when you talk about maritime music, because it's part of the show. You created the whole effect. You know what I mean?
No,
What
exactly.
people felt.
And I think that's got a lot to do with Peter Hendrickson, right? And having and bringing the gear in and acquiring so much great professional gear that just made those bands look good, and the gear, it was quality gear, was packaged well. The techs, if a tech went out with it, the tech knew what he was doing. And we always used a Tour Tech rig once things got going, and it was, you never went wrong with a Tour Tech rig, but it that helped those bands, because they weren't going to Newfoundland or Ontario or New Brunswick with a few stupid par cans chained up to a ceiling. You're talking about, brushed aluminum par cans and trussing and, super lifts and, and it looked good. So when these people came to see these Halifax bands, it was a polished show,
But more than that, it was just not the show. It's like you had trained professionals who knew what to do. What if something goes wrong? What if this tweeter blows? What if this part goes down? How do I get this up? I've watched you and your brother and so many others climb up these makeshift rigs to change a light or to change a scene or change. Oh my God. You never get away with that shit now. I mean, like the union rules, like, oh, they can fall, they can kill themselves. Oh my God. How many times have you almost fell off a, what's it say?
Union.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking about gear breaking down, we were in, I'm gonna say Rishabukto with Sam Moon, somewhere like that. And
Harrison, yeah.
It might have been, I'm not sure, too long ago, but anyway, so Bill was at the board, Bill Boodler was at the soundboard, and I was walking the band out to stage, and Richie had two beers in his hands. And he walked by Bill, he looks straight at Bill, and he goes, takes them, he goes, ha, 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 ha. One of the caps was off of the bottle, and Richie didn't know it. Soaked the board, and yeah, and I swear I can still see the look on Richie's face, because it was just like holy fuck, like did that just like, because it wasn't intentional, of course. I mean, Richie was a madman, but he wouldn't intentionally pour beer on a board of a gig that he was just about to play. And I think it was like the third set, and half the PA was cutting out, and the monitors were gone, and it was a mess. Dog's breakfast,
It's funny John. It's funny you mentioned Randy, because we play the ale house all the time, and Randy, he picks me up every time when we go in, and guess what he's using for lights? A couple of par cans chained to the ceiling, right? And I think all the gels are red, if I'm not mistaken. So
right.
It's funny how we've gone from that, and a lot of people you know, a lot of people have said, like, Dave and I were on the arse end of that. We got to see it. We got to do it a little bit. But, you know, you guys were doing it. And, you know, and now it's like, it doesn't exist anymore.
No. It's, you know, and it's all LEDs now. And, you know, you can't get a sunburn on stage anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, what a fucking drag that is. I was a keyboard player back then. Oh,
Yeah.
you die.
Especially if you're on a riser, you know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, just give me a little closer to that.
That's why
yeah,
I have any hair back there. Look.
yeah, I got my COVID do going on. But yeah, it is funny how it's come back around. I'm just wondering if it'll make another full circle at some point, you know. And
I hope so. I hope
yeah, I mean, it's just so different now. You go in and you see a couple of subs with sticks and a couple of tops, some auto-programmed sequencer going on with the lights, and it's like, it's cute.
I wedding summer, where the cruise ships come in, that building there at St. John, and we brought one of those PA. So it was like the bass band on the stick and the top.
Yeah.
I remember looking at it going like, this ain't going to be very loud. Then all of a sudden, it cranked it and it filled the room. And I mean, so it is pretty amazing how gears evolve.
Oh yeah.
But then again, in my mind, there's nothing quite like that old butterfly system when it got cranked.
Yeah. I mean, and there was a great interview with Kevin Ferris, and you know, I think back to when we took that Martin system across Canada, and Kevin was behind the Midas, and it was unbelievable. I mean, there were 6 double 15s per side. I think there might have been 4 Philoshaves for mids.
Right now, my back's sore just talking about that. I was like, I didn't feel the pain.
I didn't fucking lift it. We had loaders.
Yeah, exactly.
But once in a while, you get screwed on that, and you might end up loading the truck, you know. But there was like,
who told the story? Who told the story about having the loader with the one? Who was that, Sean?
Yeah, the one-arm loader.
They're talking about having the loader with the one hand.
Yeah.
Who told that story? I read it on your site.
It's Kevin Ferris.
Yeah, it was Kevin.
Oh,
yeah.
Man, but yeah, he can make that system sing. I mean, and it would throw some serious air, you know, like just you stood in front of it, you know, during sound check, all Bryston powered, and that thing, it was just so amazing. You know, the bottom end was just insane. And I think that's another thing too, like with, you know, harken back, but you know, bands, how would they hear themselves nowadays? I know a lot of them are using in-ears.
Yeah.
John does.
But they're not feeling anything, right? There's no bottom end, there's no thump. It's just all, I can hear everything.
Well, Sean, you use them. What do you think?
So I use buds, but I do my own. So I have a monitor mix, and then I have another headphone amp that I mix the sound with. I find it's okay from a bottom end perspective. What I miss, if I'm not running overheads, is the crowd noise between songs. And that's kind of, but the reason why I use them is because I'm used to now playing so many rooms that have shitty monitor systems that you have to, in order to hear yourself. Yeah. That's what you do, right?
Yeah.
So you remember, that's the synergy we had. Well, Kevin Woodworth had his own system that he had bought, and we had 6. We had 3 per side, the butterfly cabinets. And I remember taking my lighter, put it out there, and the fucking thing would blow out. It was just that much air was moving. It was like, and I loved it. I loved that feeling because like you could, it was just every time you just feel it, right?
I was just gonna say something about something. See, that's how the brain goes, right?
No, we're talking in-house or the in-ear monitors.
Right. I was gonna mention something you don't see anymore. You probably never will again. Is side fills.
Yes.
You know, you'd have bands and just crazy amount of side fill because they just had, you know, a couple of wedges down front, but you had a lot of power even just blown from the side, you know, just to hear. You know,
EVs. I remember.
Well, I remember playing the old Mr. Moon and using the drum wedges at the Moon, and they were blown to hell. But it was like it used to have that Metallica and Just for All drum sound, so it was like you're playing and you feel it, so it gives you a little bit extra.
Yeah.
hit as hard, but you're playing a little bit better, and then you go somewhere else and you don't have that. It's all kind of weird, right? So,
Yeah.
John, I mean, you again. I told the story about the last time I saw you, which was a long time ago, and you were out with the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
And Steel Wheels, right?
Yeah.
Who else have you been out with?
When I was with U2 in 1992, Wade and myself, Wade Arsenault. I should back up the story, but the reason we got those gigs was that we would rent our tour buses off a guy in Ontario. Can't remember his name at the moment. And he knew of this company called Concert Caravans. And what that company did was set up, basically a ticket system within like a 200-mile radius of these concerts. And they would sell these packages to radio stations. And Doug Andrews was the guy's name. So he knew this company called Concert Caravans, and we rented. His company was called Have Bus Will Travel. And he said, you know what? He said, do you know anybody who knows how to drive, or some road guys? He said, we're going on tour with the Who, and I need some people. So Doug, who dealt with Wade, the tour manager from Haywire, called Wade and said, hey, I'm gonna put you in touch with this guy. So Wade ended up going out with this company first between Haywire tours. He was out with the Brotherhood tour, Bon Jovi, the Who reunion, the 50th reunion, and we'd always talk because we were good buddies. And he's like, I'm trying to get you out. I'm trying to get you a gig, man. I'm trying to get you a gig. And so anyway, that finally happened in '89 with the Stones. So, and that was amazing. It was 16 weeks all through the U.S. And then, back with Haywire, when the next album came out. And then in '92, it just happened again. It was like, look, we're going out with U2. Are you good? Can you come out? I'm like, yep. And I wasn't even a fan really of U2. I knew, I kind of liked them, but
yeah.
That first night we drove down to Lakeland, Florida, and it was the last dress rehearsal before Zoo TV kicked off. And so it was like there was maybe about 30 of us just kind of sitting out in front of the stage and watching a private U2 show, going through them. And but the thing, by the end of that rehearsal, it was just like, what did I just see? It was like, it was the most amazing, like, sounding, looking. The music was amazing. Achtung Baby was a great album, and and so I became a huge fan after that.
They're the last supergroup, they really are. In my opinion, the last supergroup, that's existed. So
so we did the spring leg and then had the summer off, did Festival by the Sea, and then back in the fall and did the fall leg, did the stadium tour after that. So, and then in '93, I did Northern Pikes for a month, which is, again, connections, right? And so Craig Finley he's from Saskatoon, and he's a union guy, and we always do his union house. Nice guy, you get to meet people, and he's one of those nice folks, So he was out with Bare Naked Ladies as their tour manager, and they played in St. John. And so I'm working the show as like picking up shows, right? And hey man, how you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. So what do you do? Are you still with it? I said, yeah, I'm just, between tours. And he goes, oh, well, no, I was done touring at that point. He's like, I might have a gig for you. Give me your phone number. And so anyway, it was the Northern Pikes for just a month-long tour. And it started in Halifax. I think we did our first show at the Moon in '93. Would have been the summer. And off I went with those guys, super guys, fantastic. And they did a Much Music special on that tour. And then at the end of it, it was like, great pleasure, and made my way home. And then it was about 4 or 5 years later, Steve Mack and a friend of mine from St. John, radio guy, he says, hey, I just saw your name on a Northern Pikes album. I was like, what? So they did a live album I remember them recording the shows, but they did a live album. I think it was called Gig. But anyway, they gave me an album credit for Guitar Tech, which was like super sweet. Yeah, it was very nice. Very nice. But then after Northern Pikes was just around the time that Harbor Station was just opening up and the Imperial Theater was just, reopened after it's being refurbished. And, you know, that whole campaign, the money raising campaign to open it back up as a fully functioning theater.
Right.
So, and I'd already been an IATSE member at that point, but so IATSE got the contract for Harbor Station. I instantly became the crew chief as soon as the doors opened, and shop steward, and worked at the Imperial as a stagehand as well, and spotlight operator. And yeah, and then a couple years later, I landed a gig at a voiceover studio in 1995 as just a recording engineer, editor, and I've been there this week. This is my 25th year there. So
Wow.
yeah, and I still rig, I still get my hands dirty. I'm still part of
Well, I
the
saw you last year.
Yeah, exactly. And still working the Imperial Theater, of course, not right now, but love working up there. Just great people to work with, and yeah, it's like once it's in your blood, you know, you just go and you go and you go. I mean, I just love doing live shows or anything to do with the background scenes or the setting up of a show, making it happen, and yeah, I love it.
This is
I,
great. I never thought of it that way before, Johnny. Like, we talked to a lot of musicians, and we're almost out of time. We talked to a lot of folks, you know, like especially during this COVID shit, where people can't perform. They're entertainers, but they can't entertain you. They're musicians, but they can't play. They're singers, but they can't sing, and all the stuff that's kind of breaking their hearts a little bit. But I never thought of it from your perspective, from a technician, you know, from a back line, whether it be sound or lights or guitar tech or whatever the case may be, follow spot, whatever it is. This is part of your blood too. It gets in your blood. You need to do it. You need to get that itch out. I never thought of it that way before, and I appreciate you're talking about that, because I never really.
Problem.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know that. I mean, even for us, I mean, just for not to. This isn't a bragging moment at all, but I mean, last year was one of the better years I've ever had, and my stage work and rigging between going down to Halifax, Moncton, St. John, and the Imperial was a fifth of my take home last year. So.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really great year, and that money has just it's gone. Because I have a full-time job at the studio, I don't qualify for any CERB or anything like that. So I think it's gonna be a lean time, you know, unfortunately. But a lot worse for others. A lot of musicians I know that's their bread and butter. Like that's there may not be a side hustle or a side gig. That's what they do. If they're not playing music, they're not earning, you know, and you know, heart goes out to those folks. You know, this is a brutal time.
Well, and two things. One, I had the opportunity to go to. I saw Big Wreck at the Imperial Theater when they were there.
Yeah.
That was awesome. And second part, what you said about musicians. Recurring theme with people we talk to. It's, you know, somebody coined it like day 2 or day 3. It's the first industry to get frigged. It's the last one to get fixed. And we're sort of seeing that a little bit now. I talked to a club owner here today who they just had a meeting with the chief medical person today, and they're supposed to be opening tomorrow. So that doesn't tell me there's a plan for our industry in place. So
no,
it's disappointing, and hopefully frig it up. And I don't want to get too political with it, but I just really hope this is an opportunity, because it's such an important industry for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. Not only the people that are in it, but the people that enjoy it. So I really hope they get it right.
Oh yeah. Let's hope.
Yeah.
I'm more worried about, have I been looking in the right place? I've been like, I look at the screen, I look at the camera.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Eyes are up here, Johnny. Eyes are up here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good. Cheers.
Right. Cheers to you, brother.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo. All right, we're up. We gotta go. John Dykeman, we sure appreciate your time. I thank you for coming on to the Barstools and Bandtalk show. I love this part of it. This is probably my favorite. Well, not my favorite. I love it all. But I want folks to understand there's more to a show, especially back in the day.
Oh yeah.
It was just some guy playing or some guy singing. It was a big orchestrated effort from a lot of people. And folks like our good friend John Dykeman here were a big part of that for sure. During the Haywire years, during the drama years. And we appreciate it. Thanks so much for being on the show.
Oh man, thanks. It was a pleasure, a real pleasure. Thanks.
Well, I have one last thing, John.
Sure.
Send me a direct message with your phone number, and the next time that I'm in St. John, you and I'll get together for a beer, because I plan on being there soon.
I'm down with that for sure. That'd be a blast.
Oh, it always is, my friend. Yeah.
Excellent.
All
John
right.
Dykeman,
Thanks.
thanks so much. Peace out, brother.
Cheers.
We're out.